Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about mental illness. Now these particular cards and other cards are in two parts. And there are others in different categories of the cards. So two of ones I have with me are like Great Depression and Women at Work. However, I wouldn't be doing a lot of the two-part cards because I really don't know how many parts about the topic are there, even if I have them. But from what I see, the mental illness cards are only in two, and since I have the two cards, I can do that. And this topic should also be important, very important, as we all deal with this at some point in our lives. Sometimes we stuck with it, and we stick with it for the whole life, and luckily we get help in talking to others who can help. And therapists, we have to overcome this. However, back in the day, people who had mental illnesses didn't have it well. In fact, the general public from pictures scored these types of people, and the treatments were beyond worse. So let's sit down and around and dive into part one from the daily life section of Story of America cards. Mental health encompasses emotional, physiological, and social well-being. It influences cognition, perception, and behavior. It also determines how the individual harnesses stress, interpersonal relationships, and decision-making. Mental health includes subjective well-being, precise self-efficacy, autonomy, competence, intergenerational dependence, and self-actualization of one's intentional and emotional potential. Among others, from the perspectives of positive psychology or holism, mental health may include an individual's ability to enjoy life and create a balance between activities and efforts to achieve physiological resilience. I'm pretty sure I messed up that word. Cultural differences, suggestive assignments, and completing professional theories all affect how one defines mental health. Colonial Americans feared and avoided the insane and considered them incurable or perhaps victims or practitioners of witchcraft. As a result, most mentally ill persons were brought to official attention only if they actually posed danger to others or were public nuisance. Even those who could afford home care were often chained in cellars or outhouses. Yes, an outhouse, aka an outdoor toilet. When they became violent or troublesome, if their care was forced upon by town officials. The insane were often chained in a small cabin kept at town's expense by those bid lowest to care for them, such as persons frequently supplemented their fees by charging admission so others could be amused by the insane person's particular behavior, perhaps pondering and goading them with sticks for optimum effect. In popular areas where jails and almshouses were available, the insane were often thrown into dark cellars where untrained attendants kept them in heavy chains and quieted them down with beatings. Jesus, this is getting worse the more we go down. I feel like I'm going to throw up. But the inhuman treatments continued long after experience proved that insanity was an illness that could respond to treatment. The Philadelphia Quakers, under the leadership of Benjamin Rush, were among the first to take in the mentally ill patients in 1783. Next, hospitals with new methods of humane treatment were opened and helped by medical superintendents. Among these institutions was the asylum at Worcester, Massachusetts, 1830. Oh hey, I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts, but off topic. Whose inmates were, thanks to the efforts of the man like Horace Mann, declared wards of the state. Treatment methods included work programs, music therapy, and phonology, study of the shape of the skull. When Alan Ryan Brighton became a medical doctor of the asylum at Utica, New York, he set up the work programs for inmates, including a paint shop where he began publishing his American Journal of Psychology in 1844. It remains a respected journal today. So, despite this early interest in the care of mental illness, the problem grew. The few states' asylums in existence became overcrowded, and a constructive public began to question the curability of mental illness. It was into a negative climate that Dorothea Dix unwillingly stepped in 1841 by venturing into the East Cambridge, Massachusetts jail to teach Sunday school. What she witnessed there among the inmates left her appalled, and her subsequent reports helped it improve the vile conditions to which the mentally ill were subjected. Now, different societies or cultures, even different individuals in a subculture, can disagree as to what constitutes optimal versus pathological, biological, and psychological functioning. Research had demonstrated that cultures vary in the relative importance placed on. For example, happiness, autonomy, or social relationships for pleasure. Likewise, the fact that a behavior pattern is valued, accepted, encouraged, or even statistically normative in a culture does not necessarily mean that it is constructive to optimal psychological functioning. People in all cultures find some behaviors bizarre or even incomprehensible, but just what they feel is bizarre or incomprehensible is ambiguous and subjective. These differences in terms can become highly contagious. The progress by which continues and difficulties come to be defined and treated as medical conditions and problems, and thus come under the authority of doctors and other health professionals, is known as medicalization or pathologization. And that's for part 1 of the mental illness. Be sure to look out for part 2, because hopefully part 2 is much better than how the beginning of part 1 started. So see ya later.